Hi everyone, my name is Nick, and today I'll be talking about the board game Xia, Legends of a Drift System. Xia is a 3 to 5 player space-themed sandbox-style board game where players will be competing to be the first to achieve a set number of victory points, or in this game called fame points. This game was published by Far Off Games in 2014 and was designed by Cody Miller, and playtime is going to vary depending on the number of fame points that you and the other players decide you want to play for. So the max number of fame points you can play for in a game is 20, and you can play up to and down to a minimum of 1, but that's going to greatly affect then how long the game is going to take. So I would say game length could be from an hour to actually several hours. Number of players that you're playing with also is going to impact gameplay rather significantly. If you're playing a 3-player game, it's going to be shorter than if you're playing a 5-player game. With that said, as I mentioned, the game is all about achieving these fame points. There's actually many ways to achieve those fame points, and I'll go into detail on that in a minute, but I think kind of one of the interesting ways, or one of the interesting aspects of achieving victory points is if you want to be a lawful ship while trying to achieve these victory points, or fame points, I should say, or do you want to be an unlawful ship, or an outlaw is what you'd be called in this game, and which would allow you to maybe achieve fame points in other ways that a lawful ship wouldn't be able to achieve victory points or fame points, but there's consequences for being an outlaw, which is no different than real life. So that's what makes, I think, an aspect of the game that makes it rather entertaining is to see which players are going to choose which path, but the goal remains the same, the first to achieve a set number of fame points. Now, in addition to yourself and the other players playing the game, there's also these NPC ships, or non-player controlled ships, that are going to be roaming around the galaxy as well. These ships are either going to hinder your efforts or help you, or may actually have no impact on your game in terms of achieving those fame points. But that's another element that definitely comes into play with this game and makes it interesting. Since there's a lot going on in this game, I'm just going to move on to explaining how this game works, and then I'll conclude with my final thoughts. So here I have a game of Xia laid out for 3 players, and there's a lot to discuss for this game, so I'll try to make this as concise as possible. I might spare a few details, but with that said, I think the first thing worth explaining is the setup. So the very first thing players will do when playing a new game of Xia is determine how many fame points they want to play to. And in this game, I decided the players came to an agreement that they want to play a 10 fame point game of Xia. So then I take this victory point or fame point marker that comes with the game and put it on the 10 space of this fame point track. Each player will then pick a color that then they'll use for their markers. So there's a yellow player, a blue player, and green player. And every player starts with 0 fame points on the fame point track. And then players will decide what ship they want to play with for the game. There are 7 ships for each tier level, and I'll explain that in a second too, what that means. But there's 7 ships then that players will get to look at and choose to play with. You'll roll a 20-sided die to see who gets to pick first. With your ship, each player is given 3,000 credits to spend on outfits. So, and these are the credits. They're actually metal. You can hear that, and they're decent. You know, they have some weight to them. They're actually like legitimate metal coins, and in this game, they're called credits. And each of the silver colored coins is worth, or credits is worth 1,000 credits. And then they actually have these blue ones that are worth 5,000 credits. Each player gets 3,000 credits to spend on outfits. And outfits are all these Tetris-shaped pieces over here. There's 4 types of outfits. There's the blue, which are shields. There's the gray, which are for engines. And then yellow and orange are for attacking. Yellow are missiles, and orange are blasters. And the fact that they're different shapes and sizes correlates to how effective they are. So which usually then is connected to what die you're rolling when you're using that outfit for an action. So for example, the best engine you could buy has this 12 on this 12 symbol, which relates to the 12-sided die. So you get to roll the 12-sided die when you're using that outfit. And then in this case, for the missile, or for this this particular missile, it has the 20 on there, which denotes that you use the 20-sided die when you're attacking. Each of these outfits have a cost on them. So in this case, this blaster has a cost of 1,000 credits, and players are free to spend their credits however they want. Then once all players have decided what they want to purchase for their ships, they place their ship on the map, the starting map, I should say, and each of these tiles is called a sector in this game, and the number of sectors that you start with is based on the number of players. So in a 3-player game, you have the 3 sectors on the table. Also, each ship has its own unique ability. And I won't go into detail what these abilities do to save time here, but understand basically that there's a few different things that makes each ship different from each other and adds a lot of variability then to the gameplay, because everyone's going to have their own unique ship from the very start of the game. In addition to these ability cards, every player also gets a reference card to help them keep track of what it is they can and can't do and the various order of the gameplay. The first part of your turn is your action phase. So as you can see here, this does a relatively good job of summarizing the actions you can pick. I can tell you that there's a lot of rules associated with each of these actions. So you still have to understand how the game works in order to actually use this effectively, but it's a nice reminder to have. And probably the main actions you're almost going to use every turn is move and then maybe explore. So I'm going to actually start with this explore action, and exploring is how you get to expand the galaxy. You start with just these 3 sectors, but at the end of the game, you'll probably have many more than 3 sectors on the table, and it's kind of essential for you to probably explore more sectors, as you'll find out soon. So the way that in order to explore a sector, you have to be on the very edge of a sector in order to explore a new one. And so that is the case for the Easy Tiger ship, and he's going to explore a new sector in this area. So it's a face down stack of sector tiles off camera that I'm picking from, and I end up picking this Kemplar 2 planet sector that will be positioned next to the Easy Tiger ship. And additionally, for the explore action, you do have to use up 1 energy point. So then the Easy Tiger player will keep track of that by moving their energy token down 1. And then the player continues their turn. In a lot of games, you have a set number of actions for your turn. In this game, there's not a set number of actions for your turn. You're limited basically on how many arm tokens you have, your energy, and the outfits you have. So you have a lot of freedom basically in terms of how you determine and how you want to handle your turn. Whenever you flip over a new tile, any question mark space immediately gets one of these question mark tokens, which are called explore tokens. And I'll show you what those are in a second. So now that player, or the Easy Tiger player, decides, okay, they have this new sector, they want to move into it. So to move, there's actually a couple options how you can move. The first is using your engines. So with all these outfits, whether it's a shield, missile, blaster, or engine, there's these octagon orange shapes, and those are places that you can activate. And the more of these spaces, the more times you can activate that outfit. So in this case, this engine allows you to use it 3 times during your turn. In order to activate the engine, however, you have to have available armed tokens to use. So the Easy Tiger player has 4 available to use, so they will use one of those armed tokens, place it on their engine. And now that the Easy Tiger player is able to use the dice that is shown on this outfit. In this case, this Halon engine uses an 8-sided die, denoted by that green 8. So the Easy Tiger player takes the 8-sided green die, rolls it, and that's the number of spaces they get to move. So obviously a 1 is quite regretful. They don't get to move very far. And they're probably cursing right now at the table. But that's just kind of what happens when you're rolling dice in a game. The next action the Easy Tiger player will do is, hey, they'll just move again because they can. They have both an arm token available and a space on their engine outfit to roll. And they get to roll that 8-sided die one more time, hoping for better results. And they get another 1. You know, life in Galaxy isn't as easy as some may think it is. So they're still going. They still have options to move again, and that is exactly what they will do. So they activate their engine one more time. And let's hope for something a little better so I don't have to forcibly put it on something. Okay, great. So a 4. And they'll go 1, 2, 3. Now, in the game, there are both major and minor actions. And minor actions are denoted by this minor text next to the action on the reference card here. But essentially, a minor action is something that doesn't disrupt your movement points. So when you roll, you have that many movement points that you can then move across the galaxy. And in this case, they already moved 3. And as a minor action, you can explore, collect a question mark token or explore token, and it's a minor action. So I will do that and then pick up the token and flip and see what it is, and it's 1,000 credits. So because I flipped over this question mark token, that's 1,000 credits. As you can see, they don't have any more outfit tokens, outfit spaces to use an arm marker to activate their engines. However, they do have their impulse token available. And every player, as you see, has one for their ship. When you decide to use your impulse token, you automatically get that many spaces of movement. So and it doesn't require any energy or any arm tokens. You just automatically get that every turn. And so because Easy Tiger decided to flip their impulse token, they now have 3 points of movement they can use. So they'll go over to this mission point symbol, 1, 2. As a minor action, draw mission cards when you're on a mission point, like the Easy Tiger players. And that is what this deck of cards is for. So, missions. There are 6 total mission types in the game. 3 of them are considered lawful missions that will not have you become an outlaw if you successfully complete them, and those are blue. And then 3 types of missions that are considered outlaw missions that potentially could make you an outlaw depending on the results of the mission. So in this case, this thief mission explains that you fly adjacent to a ship, the target ship, and then you roll a 20-sided die, and on a 1 to 5, you actually fail and gain a bounty. And when you gain a bounty, that's the equivalent of becoming an outlaw, and that's symbolized by the player actually having a token placed in that orange area of their ship mat, letting other players know, hey, if this is a wanted criminal in the galaxy, look out, and you can either stay away from them because you feel like they might be up to no good, or you could go after them and try to take them down, because any ship with a bounty, that bounty's up for grabs. So if you destroy a ship with a bounty, you gain their bounty. And also there's missions like this one called Bounty Hunter, or Dog the Bounty Hunter, or you can pretend to be Dog the Bounty Hunter and go after a outlaw ship, and because it says find and destroy any outlaw ship. And not only then would you collect the bounty on that ship, but you'd also gain whatever rewards are listed down here. Say then this player is done and with their action phase. So the very next phase of your turn is called your business phase. Now, as stated here, you only get a business phase if you are on a planet. In this case, the Easy Tiger player is on a planet, so they get to basically do all of these actions if they want. So first is recharge energy, so they can move their energy token all the way to the 8. spot. They can repair damage if they had any, but they currently do not. They could buy outfits, but they have 1,000 credits, so they could buy a 1,000 credit outfit if they wanted to, but they're going to save on to that. They could sell outfits too if you want to upgrade to something newer or better. Rearrange their cargo hold, move things around. They can buy a new ship if they wanted to, or just simply pay 5,000 for a fame point. And then once the player is done with their business phase, again, only if they're on a planet, every player always gets a status phase. And that allows players to claim fame if there is a specific title card, I think, that would allow them to claim fame and draw title cards. And I'll pause to explain title cards. So next to the mission card deck, there's this fame point or title deck that is drawn from whenever players meet a certain fame point threshold on this fame track. So the first time a player gets to 3 fame points, a title card is drawn, and then 6 points, another title card is drawn, then 9 points. And what title cards are just additional ways for for ships to earn fame points. So for example, here we have Destroyer. Destroy 2 enemy ships in 1 turn, and and then not only does this get you the number of fame points in the upper right, so this one's worth 3 fame points, you also get the ability at the bottom. So immediately after rolling attack, you may re-roll 1 of your dice. So these are actually quite powerful if you're able to get them, but they're not. Some are very difficult to get. Destroying 2 ships, for example, in the same turn is a pretty difficult task to achieve. And then you get to refresh your armed markers. So put them back in the armed section of the ship. And then finally, you move any NPCs that you control. There's a lot more to the game than even what I just said. I'm just going to, for the sake of time, skip over attacking and defending. Essentially, you're rolling dice for what weapons you have, and that number is the attack damage you do. So if I'm rolling my green die for let's say this blaster that and I roll 1, well, that's only 1 damage that I'm dealing to the target ship. And then any target ship has the potential to roll for their shield. So let's say they have this level 1 shield that lets them roll this 6-sided die. They would roll, and that 2 means they get to block 2 points of damage. So they don't even get hurt for that example of an attack. But that's how attacking essentially works. It's relatively straightforward, which is nice. And once your ship is completely full with damage, then your ship is destroyed. You actually get to respond on your very next turn, so it's not the end of the world by any means, and you get to keep your fame points and your money. You just would lose any items that you're carrying, and then you're back in the game. So getting destroyed in this game definitely isn't the worst thing, but it does set you back a little bit. Then how you potentially win the game is by trying to get fame points using any of these methods. Which methods you decide to focus on, of course, is up to the player, but you have a lot of ways to win. And the first player to get to that victory point marker track, or on the victory point marker on the fame point track, wins the game. So with that long overview, I will then move on to kind of give you my thoughts on this game. So first, I want to start off by saying I'm not really aware of many other, if any other, sandbox style board games in existence. I would imagine there's a few out there that I just don't know of. I don't think I can say I've played any of them, but having this sandbox style board game is very unique and it works. I like that aspect that you're coming into a game with the opportunity to essentially do whatever you want and still win. Most games, of course, are very focused and you can only win by doing X, Y, and Z. But this game is not like that at all. You can focus just on buying and selling resources from one planet to another and win that way. You could win by simply becoming the greatest outlaw there ever was and blowing up every single ship you ever come across and win that way. And that makes the game I think, very replayable, because then, you're going to want to try to win differently than the last time you played. You're going to want to try to win with maybe different outfits than you played with the last time. So the sandbox, I guess, style allows for a lot of replayability, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And I think that makes the game unique, special, and almost worth getting for that aspect alone. Another big plus for me for this game is the component quality. These painted ship miniatures are second to none, I think. I mean, like I said, sure, the Fantasy Flight X-Wing miniature games have great miniatures, and I guess Star Wars Armada as well has painted miniatures. But the fact that this game comes with painted miniatures is really great in my opinion. And these metal coins are also fantastic. I'm surprised that they were able to pull that off. Like, these are really, high quality metal coins. Like, I wish these were worth something in real life, or someone might be convinced they're worth something in real life. They're that high, great quality. I will say maybe a minor knock to that is that the planet or sector tiles are a little on the thinner side. They're not paper thin by any means. They're still decent quality. I'm not saying they're bad, but I wish those maybe were a little thicker or just maybe a little more durable. But the ship mats are all, I felt like those could have been thinner in quality, and they're actually relatively thick, so I was impressed by that. And all the other components are, definitely good enough in my opinion, but the ships themselves are what really make this game pop out and almost make you want to play the game by themselves. So I really like that part of the game. And I like the player interaction. It's not forced, but it's there. So if you want to be on your own in the game and kind of do your own thing, you probably can. And if other ships want to come after you, you probably have you could run away from them. But then if you want to be an interactive player and fight with other players or go after the NPCs, you have that option available. And I guess that's kind of nice that it's not either or. You can have both in the same game. The other thing that I really liked about the game is that when you have a fame point track, it's expected maybe some players are going to surge ahead of the others at some point, and you might feel then there's no way of catching up to whoever's in the lead. But because of the way this game's designed and the sandbox, I guess, style of gameplay, I think, victory is available really for everyone until the game is finally over. Because there's a lot of variables that no player has control over. You don't have control over the missions that you're drawing when you draw the missions. You don't have control over what titles are drawn from the title deck. You clearly don't have control over what you're rolling when you're rolling dice. So a lot of these things that are essentially luck-based may or may not go in your favor. And that goes both ways. Obviously, someone who's in the lead could continue just to stay in the lead because they're drawing and rolling very well. But at the same time, that player in the lead might actually start rolling poorly, and the players behind might be drawing better mission cards. When they're flipping for a new sector tile, they might get a better sector to fly into than the player that's winning. And over time, I think then players in the back might be able to catch up. So with that said, definitely look for this game if it sounds exciting to you or interesting, because there's nothing really like this that I've seen on the market. Also, do know there is an expansion for this game called Embers of a Forsaken Star. That game includes rules for 1 to 2 players as well. The base game technically is 3 to 5 players. With that said, I think there's probably fan-made variants that you can find on Board Game Geek that allow you to play the base game with just 1 or 2 players anyway. But the expansion has a lot of really great stuff. I have the expansion and have played with it, and it's a lot of fun. And one other thing I want to throw out, when I've played this game, it's actually been on Tabletop Simulator. If you're not familiar with Tabletop Simulator, it's basically a way to play games on the computer, but still have the ability to roll dice and use the actual components from the real game. And this game is available on Tabletop Simulator if you want to play it that way. And the benefit of playing it that way is you don't need to actually have the other players physically in the room with you. Yes, it then defeats the purpose of actually having the physical copy of the game, because then you're not playing with that, but it then allows you to play with others that are not located in your area. So I mentioned that because I played it that way, and the Tabletop Simulator module for this game, or the downloadable content, is actually very well done. It adds a... You check it out if that's something that sounds interesting to you, or if you've never even heard of Tabletop Simulator at all. I would definitely look into that. And if, like, for example, if that's the reason why you want to get this game is because you don't think you'll have find other players that live around you to play it with, then maybe Tabletop Simulator would be an option for you to get into this game. So with that said, thanks for listening. Appreciate it, and hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and see you next time.